Stop thinking and start starting. Jessica Dennehy. DC Tribe Josh Thomas. If you haven't already, check out thedozone.com for productivity tips, accountability, and overall, just a really great bunch of human beings looking to get more stuff done. Once again, that's thedozone.com. Today's guest is going to be really interesting because we're going to tell a story here. His name is Erick Sanchez. He is an immigrant and has transported himself into a successful entrepreneur living the American dream. And I am dying to find out why he got chased by helicopters. And I'm sure you are too. So, but Erick, welcome to the podcast. Say what's up to the DC tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for the intro. It is an honor to be here. I hope I get to inspire somebody. And the question you are asking me now is, I believe the key of success is to obviously always lead yourself with a higher spirit. So I'm a firm believer of a creator, whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, Jesus Christ, you name it. I believe in that higher power that has given me the gift and the ability to do things and to be very persistent and just continue to do the work even while the results are not there, you know. So for many years, I was putting the work, I was getting the results, not to the point where I felt, you know, I was getting all the results that I wanted for myself, but I just kept going at it. And then one day things started really changing for my life and for everybody else surrounding me, you know. So I think that if you want to get the blessings, you need to also go through the struggle, through the difficult moments that is going to build your character.
Awesome. Well said. Yeah. And it's been said before, there's a movie that came out a few years ago. It's a Pixar animated movie, and it's called Inside Out. And it's about the 5 different emotions personified that live in this little girl's head, you know, and they're going through all this. It's pretty clever. You know, they take a ride on the train of thought. And the interesting thing about this movie that I feel like a lot of people miss, even though it's kind of hitting you right in the nose, is joy, or the happiness emotion was kind of that first feeling. And then sadness shows up, and joy doesn't like sadness. No, you're supposed to be happy. No, don't be sad. You're not supposed to ever be sad. And she kept coming back because the girl was struggling, and joy was like, no, happiness will solve everything. And then she exhausted all of her resources with the happiness at the end of the movie and realized that she couldn't solve the problems. And that's where sadness kind of tapped in and said, hey, I got this. And what the girl really needed was, she needed to feel the pain. She needed to feel that struggle, because that balanced everything out. I was watching that movie, man, and I'm just like, I'm a grown man with a beard and tattoos, and I'm just like,
you're crying,
because it's exactly
you're crying out
what
loud.
You're talking about, man. It's exactly it. You have to. The only way that you can appreciate something good, is to appreciate something that's not good.
You know, it really goes back to the concept of duality. I think a lot of people, they need to really study spiritual laws, and I'm very big on that. You know, I think everything has duality. You know, you can do a good thing, and at the same time that can be bad, and you can do a bad thing that at the same time is good. You know, so as an example, you can give something to someone that is not really ready to get that, and they can do a lot of bad things with that. You know, like people asking for money, you can give them money and it's a good deed, but at the same time it might be bad because they're going to continue their addictions and everything. So like, people just need to learn from duality. You know, like for many years, I went through a lot of struggles, and I think that if you're not going through challenges right now, you're not really living life, because I'm in a really good position right now that people would love to be, and I think people can definitely be here, you know, and I'm still going through daily challenges. I'm still going through adversities, and I just keep reminding myself where I come from and where I'm going. And I'm also reminding myself the journey is everything. That's why when I launch my podcast, it will be trust the journey, like the journey is everything, like trust the process, the journey is everything. And I really want people to focus more on the journey than the actual destination. Because what happens once you get there, you're going to be like, oh, is this it? Like, what's next? Why am I feeling empty? I thought if I had that thing, I was going to feel different. Why do I not feel any different? Why do I still feel like I'm lacking something? The real abundance to me does not come from the money that I have or from any of the things that I have. The real abundance comes from within me. And I always knew I was rich. I always knew that I was wealthy. I always knew that it was a matter of time for all these things that I had internally started actually working in the external world. I really don't look at things from the outside and within. Like, I really look at things from the inside out, and that's really the main thing about this matrix that want to keep you a slave to a system, to a way of thinking, and even your own self. Sometimes you create these matrices, like you create this belief in your mind that limit you to become the person that you were meant to be. If I said when I came to the United States, I'm an immigrant, I'm never gonna amount to nothing, I'm just gonna be like everybody else, then I would have created a self-prophecy for me.
The
But
self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah,
it's a
it's
self-fulfilling
so
prophecy.
powerful, man. The idea that you get to decide who you are, good or bad, is something that's lost, and it comes from this concept of a victim mentality. Well, I grew up in a poor home. Well, I'm an immigrant. Well, English is my second language.
Mhm.
Well, my dad used to beat me. Well, my dad wasn't there. And there's all of these reasons, and there's all these justifications that you can make for not being the person that you're capable of being. But in the end, all you're really doing is avoiding responsibility, because
And
none of those people were responsible for your success. You are.
yeah, absolutely. People, the more responsibility you take, the more blessings you get. One of my friends, he said these people want the privilege, but they don't want to work hard for the privilege too.
Hmm.
And one tip that I'll give to everyone is whatever you're at right now, appreciate that. Like, if
Hmm.
you're currently working at a job that's paying your bills, appreciate that. Because when you get your own business, if you don't have one already, then everything that you do here is what you bring to the next project that you're going to have in life. So I'll give you a story here. When I was a server, I started working as a bartender. I'm actually as a bus boy. And I was 18 years old. I needed money. One thing about Hispanic parents is that they actually teach you how to go make it on your own. They don't give it to you. Like, my mom, she could have helped me buy me a new phone when I was young. She could have maybe buy a car for me, but she was like, nope, I'm not buying that for you. You got to get it and figure it out how. So I was like, hey, I need to work. And she didn't let me go to work right away either. She said, you're going to go to school. You're going to go study. First you learn and then you earn. So she always put those thoughts in my head where, hey, you come to the United States to study. And then once you learn the language, you do the next thing, which is go to college. During that time, I needed the money. So I started working as a busboy, and I was making $6.25 an hour.
Woo.
You know, they were literally killing me, but my first check that I made was probably about $300. And after taxes, I probably got like $180 for the whole week. And I worked more than 40 hours for sure. But I took that opportunity as a learning curve. I was like, you know what? Like, I got to pay attention to the servers because I know they're the ones that are making the money. So I got to pay attention to what they do, how they communicate with the clients. And because I'm not just going to be a bus boy forever, I'm going to go to the next step. And that's exactly what happened. I got another job later on the future, and I told them I have experience as a server. So I got hired and I started making $9.25 an hour. So I gave myself a $3 raise within 6 months
Hey, that's
because I went for the
50%,
next
man.
thing.
That's a
I went to the
50%
next
raise.
thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I saw that the actual money was in serving tables at restaurant, not at catering halls. So I went to restaurant and lowered my payment to $5 an hour instead, and started making tips. And that's when the whole mindset of getting commission started hitting in me like, hey, I make more money if I provide a great service. So I'm going to do that. And I started actually going more into that route. Then one day, my manifestation finally worked in my favor, and I became a resident of the United States. As soon as I became a resident of the United States, I actually got an opportunity that I can change my life forever. And it was not solar energy. It was actually something else. It was a business to business campaign. I was selling a product that I dislike a lot. Most women do love that product. It was actually makeup.
Yeah. Well, and let's get into that, because I think that's a really good arrival point. Kind of this struggle. You got to the U.S. You had to learn the language. Your mom said, "Hey, I'm not going to give you anything. You study, you learn, then you earn." And you found some
It's
opportunities.
not that she didn't give me anything. She gave me enough.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got enough to do the things you need to do. And so you're going through and you start to see opportunities, and you're positioning and leveraging yourself to get these opportunities. But let's take a step back, because your path to get here was the ultimate struggle. And it's something that I can never understand fully, because I have never had to deal with it. But I have a ton of Latino friends. I have a ton of friends from Mexico and South and Central America. And I have seen firsthand the struggles that they go through and face, even when they do everything right and fill out all the paperwork and have all the proper credentials. Even still, a lot of them get treated like second-class citizens. But your path here was treacherous. Let's back up and talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly do not mind at all. And it's something that I am proud of. And I know a lot of people are going to be listening to this, so pay attention. Um, a lot of people think that immigrants or people coming from other countries is a bad thing for the country, and it might be to a certain extent. But when you get people like me that come here to create multi-million-dollar companies after being here for a long time, I've been here for now almost 11 to 12 years. I have accomplished so much in 12 years of being in the United States. So it all happens like this, man. One day I'm in El Salvador, I'm hanging out with some friends, and the reason why they brought me here is because I was not in the right path back then. You know, I was literally at the age of 12, my mom decided to leave the country for a better opportunity for my siblings and I. And I still remember the day when my mom left, and I'm like, please don't leave, you stay. We're gonna eat beans and eggs and plantains every single day. I don't care. I'll figure it out a way to make it happen. Because it's always been that in me, you know, that I love giving. And I remember my uncle sometimes coming home and he'll give me $5. And then with that $5, I'll go and buy food for my mom and my siblings, and I'll stay with $1. And the feeling of giving, the feeling of having that responsibility of seeing my mom happy was always there within me, you know. So when she left, I'm like devastated. So for those 3 years, I was trying to find ways to grab attention, you know, to seek for that. And I started seeking for that attention in the wrong places. So I started getting into really bad habits, like drinking at a really young age, getting wasted, like really stupid wasted, drunk. You know, I started smoking cigarettes at a very young age. You know, I started smoking pot at the age of 15. I started hanging out with people that were doing all these things, and I was the youngest one. They were all like 25, 30, 40. So I started really getting a lot of bad experiences, and I'm like a sponge. Whatever I put myself, I'm going to absorb that as quickly as I can, because I'm also a student, and sometimes you can be a bad student. So back then I was a bad student. I was learning all the bad habits, all the bad things.
You were a good student, just about bad things.
Exactly. So, you know, thankfully, my mom made the decision to bring me to the United States. So one day I received a phone call from my dad, and he said, hey, where you at? And I'm like, hey, I'm hanging out with some friends. He's like, listen, don't lie to me. I know where you at. I paid for a detective to chase your ass around. I'm going to confine you, and I'm going to fuck you up if you don't make it right now. I'm like, okay, daddy, I'm coming. You know, and it was like the craziest race ever in my life, that I'm running to my house to make sure that I get there before my dad gets more mad. And as soon as I get there, my dad gives me the news. He's like, hey, you're going to the to the United States tomorrow. Te vas para la USA. He said in Spanish, te vas para la USA. Or like, mañana te vas para los Estados Unidos. I'm like, what? Like, and you want to know my response?
Tell me.
I'm like, Dad, why didn't you tell me so I can actually make a party with my friends before I leave?
Because you were already, you were still
My
thinking
mindset
about the
was
party.
still
That's why he
about the
didn't tell
party,
you.
So he's like, because I knew that if I told you, you probably would have gotten wasted with your friends, and so you're leaving tomorrow. I'm like, man, I can't believe it, bro. I had everything back then, and I always had everything that I needed. Like my parents, thankfully, they had a very good position on my dad's side. He has very good position financially. We never really lack of anything. And even on my mom's side, we never lack of anything because she will take those sacrifices to give all those things to us. So I remember her before leaving the country to come here for a better opportunity. She will take us out to eat to Pizza Hut, and she will literally waste 30% of her entire income to take us for one night to make us happy.
Wow.
And like, that's the type of mother that I have. And her
And
work ethic to the roof. She will actually had to take no bus because she had no money to pay for the bus. And she will actually had to walk from where she lived all the way to her job. And it's probably like 3 to 5 miles to almost 10 miles every single day just to make that one night count for us. So
and
I
that's
didn't know those things.
Yeah, and
until I knew.
that's one of the things. Like, so you think you didn't know those things. People in the United States don't know those things. I've spent nowhere near as much time as you, but I have spent a decent amount of time in Latin America. I have a lot of friends there, and you don't even understand. And this sounds like it was 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was in Mexico in March of 2022, like less than a month ago, and there are educated people with college degrees that are taking jobs that are paying $10 a day.
Yeah.
And it's what there is, and they find a way to make it work, and they find a way to live their life. I don't know how. I still don't know how, and I'm like trying to figure it out. But I see people with law degrees,
Yeah,
that are taking a job for $400 a month, and that's what there's so many things that you're escaping, but that's kind of one of them. Is it's just economic opportunity it will crush you because there hardly is any.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it goes back to being resourceful and being like a scavenger.
Mhm.
Like you gotta be like a scavenger, man. Like you gotta grab as much as you can with what you have. So that's one thing about my people that I love, is that no matter how people here in the state thinks that they got it bad, I think my people think otherwise too, because the level of richness that they have and happiness is so much more than what most people have here, even having so much more money and supposedly a better life, and
That's a good
you
point.
don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. So I love my people so much because of the work ethic they have. A lot of people, what they need to do is get a husband or get a wife and actually live, from her salary and your salary combined. Now you're making about $1,000 a month to maybe 800, and that's how they get to live. And obviously they don't go out to eat a lot. And if they have people here, if they're lucky to have people here, they'll maybe get that extra $300 $500 a month, that they're sending down there, but they always figure it out way, bro. Like that's the
Yeah,
last
right.
thing that they're gonna be really worried about. If you don't have something to eat, one thing is you can always go to a family member. You're always gonna find food. And one thing about Central America or South America is that family are very close to each other, so the connection is there, and there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna want to give you a hand,
Mhm.
to help you out. So that's
Yeah.
a good point right there.
So back to your, just to kind of give some, we take it for
Mhm.
granted when you're kind of surrounded by it and you see it all the time, uh, but a lot of times we just don't understand if you haven't been there and you haven't seen it and you haven't known those people that are going through it, and you're like, wow,
Mhm.
it really is a different world. But I've seen all of the things that you've mentioned as well. I've seen people that don't have two nickels to rub together, and they're some of the happiest people I've ever met. And so,
Absolutely.
but just really understanding like this is now you've discovered like, okay, mom is blowing 30% of her salary so that we can go out and have a good time, because that's the disparity in the ability to earn income and versus what things cost. And so you're going to you're going to the USA, you're on your way. Take us, what happens next?
Yeah, so I received that phone call from my dad, and then I got picked up. I obviously didn't come here, I didn't come here legally. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't come here legally. I came here illegally. You heard that right. And the funny thing is that I was going to be a U.S. citizen. My mom was pregnant in 1993 with my dad. They were here, and I always joke about this. I always laugh. I was conceived in New York City, and I was born in El Salvador. So for me, you know how people they buy shirts here in the United States, and then if you go in the back, it will say "Made in El Salvador."
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it's the opposite. It's like,
Made in New York
it will
City.
be made in New York City and bought in El Salvador. So
Nice.
I have a really dope story and I wouldn't change it. I'm proud of being the person that I am. No one can say something to me that will make me feel some type of way, and if they judge me, it's because they have something within themselves that's expressing something about them and not me, because a piece of paper is not going to define me. I always used to say my status is illegal, but not me, because I cannot be an illegal when
Yeah.
I live in a world where the laws that man has made are laws that I understand and I have to play the game, but at the same time I live some superior laws that are the spiritual laws. And that's how I feel I became a citizen, because I always had that in me, where I saw myself for being this guy that has access to the entire world, and now I can travel anywhere that I want. So when I was coming in on my journey, to the United States, I was already trying to learn how to speak English. When I'm going through Guatemala, when I'm going through Mexico.
Walk us through. Were you kind of in a like a caravan or
No, no caravan, no, hell no, 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 no. We paid top dollars to get here, bro.
Okay.
It was probably more than $20,000 to get me here. Okay.
Wow.
I tell my mom I'm her biggest investment, that she's going to get the most dividends ever. I'm
Yeah.
the best ROI that she's going to get, because I take care of my mom. I do everything that I can to take care of her. And she's not retired right now because she doesn't want to, but she will be. If she tells me I want to, I'll make it happen. But we're the type of people that no matter what, we never want to be feeling like we're depending from someone else. We like to have that, like people have this mindset that immigrants come here to take from the government. I bet you we're the last people taking from the government, because we don't like that type of dependency on someone else. We like to have that freedom and that empowerment, that we decide what to do with our money and how we make that money, So going back to your question, I got picked up by someone that is a coyote. I went through the whole situation of getting from El Salvador to Guatemala. Then I crossed Guatemala from El Salvador on a bicycle. They gave me some really dirty clothes, so I kind of look like one of those guys, that live there, like a local. And that's how I got into Guatemala. And then a few days later, I got to Mexico. And then a few days later, I'm already crossing the river. And that's when it got really crazy, because I had to cross the river 7 times to get here, and it wasn't the most fun thing ever.
7 times? Why 7 times?
Because I'm counting the times that I had to go back to Mexico to not get caught by immigration.
Okay.
So 1 time to go, come back. That's literally 2 times now. Another time to go, come back. Another time to go back.
Wow.
And then the last one that we finally made it. I literally, the 3rd time that we're crossing, I'm seeing another group go faster than us, and they immediately got caught by the immigration. So we got lucky. So I went back. I don't know anything about how the United States laws work. I know absolutely nothing. I just know that I'm coming here. Maybe at that time, if I knew, I would have just let myself, be taken by immigration. Probably my process of getting my papers would have been a lot faster than they were. But my main goal was that I was not going to let myself be caught by them. So
Okay.
the first day that we tried crossing the river, I was almost this close to get caught and get taken by them, and I almost drowned myself. Like I'm
Oof.
almost drowning, like almost drown myself because I was following this other guy, and I had some very heavy clothes because it was a little cold. So I put like a long sleeve shirt that absorbed all the water. And thank God that I went to private school in El Salvador, so I literally learned how to swim. So I'm a very good swimmer. I will not die because of that. So I was able to get myself out of the situation. And as I'm going right next to the the sand, like right next to like the place where I need to get out of the water, right? There's a big rock. I pull myself up, I rolled over like this, and I literally went in between a big rock that looks like a potato,
Uh-huh.
like a hot baked potato, and I'm in the middle. and
Okay.
and and I'm literally panicking, like I don't know what to do, and
So you're stuck there.
I'm stuck there.
Okay.
So I started breathing, you know, and then my consciousness, which I believe is God, told me, relax, take a long breath, put yourself with this hand and get yourself back in the water and swim closer to everyone else. And I literally had an immigration officer like 5 to maybe 10 steps away from me, so I did just exactly that. And I'm here now. So, I learned to listen to that voice from very little, so then moving forward, I made it. I got to Laredo, Texas. I think it
Where
is.
does the helicopter come in?
That comes after,
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't want to ruin your story, man. Keep going.
so
Keep going.
so my mom gave me like, my dad and my mom, they gave me money so I can have money as I'm coming here, and when I was already in the river between Mexico and the United States, I thought that I had already made it to the United States. So I started spending all my money that I had, and I started buying everybody Takis and sodas. And then it's like, damn, like I thought I was already in,
Yeah.
and when I finally made it, I got here, I stay another 2 more weeks, and then the day that I'm supposed to go, we're going in the highway, and there's like about 5 to maybe 8 people. We're going on a GMC car. Everybody's laying down. There's no seats on the car, completely no seats, so everybody can lay down and just lay over like that on the car, right?
Mhm.
And out of nowhere, we see that the lights goes on for the immigration officer, like we see those lights in the back, like, and I'm just like thinking, oh no, fuck, like man, they're gonna get us now, like fuck. And then the guy, he was probably a gringo, like always, I
Yeah,
say
right.
that we love. And he didn't care, so he said, hey, listen guys, I don't care if I get caught. He speaks Spanish too, so he was like a Chicano or something. So he said, I don't care if I get caught, but I'm gonna do the best for you, and I'm gonna go as fast as I can. And then as soon as I stop, you guys start running into the desert. And he just
Oh
did that
my
exactly.
God.
So he went as fast as he can. He made a few turns, and then he got on a really straight road, extremely straight road. And adjacent to that road, there's a railroad. So there's a railroad that we had to go over, and then there's a fence that has a bunch of those spikes so that you can get through. So I had to go through that. As I'm going through that, I get a little stuck with my shirt, and my shirt get caught into that, and I had to kind of go a little hard on it, and I kind of scratched my back a little bit, and that's how I got into the desert. So as soon as we're in the desert, we're running in the desert, and it start getting late, so the sun start going down. And then once we know, the helicopter is looking for us in the desert, and
Oh man.
we're literally there just laying, like not even laying down, we're like sitting like this,
Yeah,
just
crouched over.
and
And
crouched over. Yeah,
this was in South Texas.
no, this was in Laredo. That was in
Yeah.
Laredo already. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And
you
so
know
somebody tipped them off that there was a bunch of
No, I
immigrants
don't think that it is that they tip them off. I think that you just randomly get picked, and they
Okay.
see the GMC car has no seats, and they probably, I don't know
Yeah.
if at that time they had all the technology that we have now. I just know that they picked on us and they were chasing us. So thankfully, nobody got caught. And then
So you're hiding in the
seven
desert. The helicopters are
hiding in
chasing
the
you. They're
desert.
looking out for you. Keep going.
helicopters chasing at me. When I was laying over, I looked right next to me, and there's a freaking big scorpion. A scorpion right next to me. They're really big ones, like the ones that are really big and dark. I'm like, yeah. And then there were a few snakes too. The what is a cascabel? I think it is.
Yeah, rattlesnake.
There were a bunch of different things, man. So, anyway, long story short, I have to walk and run for almost 7 to 9 hours without water. So at that time, all I can think of is I need water. I need water, and I cannot wait to really drink a glass of water that maybe I never appreciated ever before in my life as much as I'm about to do right now. I feel like I'm dying and I need to drink some water, So then we got picked up. I lose my shoes inside of a bunch of mud. I lose one of my shoes, and then we get picked up, and then we get dropped off at the new location. And these people are crazy, man. They're like, hey, be careful, because in front of us, our neighbor is an immigration officer. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you guys are wild. Like, we just get picked up here, and you clearly have at that point, the enemy,
Well, the best place to hide is in plain sight,
So I remember getting to the house, and they had a gallon of orange juice, and I immediately finished that in like less than 5 minutes. It was that thirsty, bro. Like the thirst was real,
Yeah.
I was that thirsty. So then finally, boom, the next day we try again. And that day we thankfully were not chased by helicopters. It took over 15 to 20 hours of walking to get to San Antonio from Laredo, Texas. Wow. We literally did all that.
You walked from Laredo to San Antonio?
From what I remember, at that time, like, remember, I don't know any of these names. Like, I kind of sort of remember, so I believe that it was from Laredo to all the way somewhere close to San Antonio. Yeah. And then from San Antonio, we got picked up. And then because there's a gate that you got to get through once you get to the United States, there's still another gate. And that's the one that's the most difficult one, not the river, the one that's right there, that gate that they call the Garita, that's the one you got to get through. And it's really extremely hard to get through,
That's right. Yeah, there's a perimeter around about 15 miles from the border where the U.S. government can basically detain people for any reason, and they put right on that border. If for anybody that's ever been to South Texas, going down there, no problem. But if you're coming back, they stop every single vehicle. Mm-hmm. And they just ask, well, hey, are you U.S. citizens? And if you say yes, you're gone. But if you say anything else, then they are obligated to follow up. Sometimes you go to this thing called second revision, and it's a mess. Yeah. And it's very difficult, and they're very serious.
Absolutely. It really is. It really is. And for all those people that might say, hey, go back to your country, I think a lot of us would love to go back to our country. And the only thing that's different right now than what it was in the 1800s is that the United States of America had completely wide doors open for everybody to come and build this great nation. This nation is built by immigrants. And the only thing that changed from me and people and other people's ancestor is the fact that back then this thing was open. Anybody could come. Anybody can come from Europe. Anybody can come from absolutely anywhere. So I just think that ignorance is a blessing. And a lot of people that don't know these things, they just don't know what they don't know. So I'm glad that I get the opportunity to share this with you here, because what would happen if I didn't come here, right? Like, think about all the money that I have been able to help other people make, which is what we do now. I focus on helping creating six-figure earners. And if this immigrant didn't build the business that we have today, all these people wouldn't have the opportunity that they have today. So I made it my one goal to avoid another Erick to go through the situation that I had to go through, and my mom, because that's the way we fix this mess, is by giving jobs and giving employees an opportunity down there to make more money than they make at their current company. I'll tell you, these people are more competent than a lot of people here, and more than that, they're not lazy people. And I have people working for us right now, working with us right now, and we pay them double the salary that they will be making in El Salvador, and I'm very glad and grateful that I went through everything that I went through today, so that I am in the opportunity to give people the opportunity to not have to go through what I had to go through with my family, because I don't want another person to go through these things. If I can create wealth and keep them where they at, I'm fixing a big problem in the world.
I think it comes back to, first of all, before I say anything else, I want to acknowledge what a terrifying and thrilling and inspirational story you just shared. Thank you so much for that. You were sincere, and you gave a perspective that probably most people have never had about what it's actually like for somebody to travel here from Latin America illegally, and all of the challenges that you have to overcome, not just the legal ones, but I mean,
the language barrier,
at the language barrier, and any moment you could have just died from exhaustion or been killed, or anything.
And that sadly probably is happening right now, man. Sadly, it is happening right now. So people got to appreciate what they have here. The one thing that is different about this country than any other country is the credit system. We got it good. We can literally go and get a line of credit right away and start building a business out of nothing. That's a gift. That's a gift that we don't have down there. People can easily go and get a credit card. Like you don't know a lot of people in South America or Central America getting a credit card that easy. It don't work like that. But at the same time, I'm so glad that I seen both coins, because I also see how the system here slave people away with their life, because they're literally trading their entire currency or time for money, which is something that my people down there have a lot of time, but not so much money. So in one way or another, there is a lot of different forms of slavery that I've been able to observe, thanks to the fact that I have lived two different realities. And even when I got here, I have questioned absolutely everything, question everything. I always question everything, and that's
right back to that duality that you were talking
about.
It
all comes back to the duality,
because of that struggle that you had. You were able to truly appreciate the success that you're sharing, and you're able to share that with others right now. And the other kind of point that you were making there is there are all kinds of different forms of slavery. There's economic slavery, and then there's also this emotional slavery, if you will. Like you said, like, I know a lot of people that have $0, but they're very happy. And I know a lot of people that have a ton of money and they'll never be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting to the happy part of the story is that I graduated high school. A lot of people doubted me. I love people doubting me, bro. I love people thinking that
stoke that fire.
I won't do something, like I love when people underestimate me. And it's in a way, I think, I don't know if it's been like that for you in your life, like people always questioning the things that you're about to do. And that's a gift. If you have people right now doubting you, if you have people right now questioning you, criticizing you, that's a gift. That's a blessing. All that energy, you can use it in your advantage, because you can change negative energy to positive, and I learned how to do that very well. So I had a lot of people that were questioning me, because even when I got here, I started going back to those habits that I had. I started drinking again, not right away, because my mom will definitely fuck me up, but once I started working at the catering hall, I had access to alcohol again, I started hanging out with bad apples. So here's what my mom did. My mom at that time literally kicked me out of the house. But instead of kicking me out of the house, she left the place that we used to live together, and she made me pay half of the rent for the place that her and I and my siblings used to live. So I was paying about $700 already on rent, or $500 at the age of 18, 19, already paying half of my rent. And I kind of started liking having that freedom, because now I can bring my friends at any time that I want. I have my own room. I'm going to high school at that time. I graduated high school at the age of 19, so I love that my mom has always prepared me for the next step, because she knows the value of responsibility. So then I ended up leaving the house completely, And then I'm like, Mom, are you going to help me with the rent? And she was like, well, I didn't tell you to leave the house. So now you're on your own. You got to pay everything. Because where I left you at, I would have continued to help you. But since you left where I left you at, now you got to pay. So then at that time, I started paying my own rent and no more help from mom and everything. So I had 2 jobs. I'm going to high school. I graduated high school, and then I go to college, because I was a firm believer that my parents are everything to me, even to this point. And my grandmother too. I give her all the props for the entrepreneurial spirit that I have today in me, because she was a big entrepreneur in El Salvador. Like, she made millions of fucking pesos back there, bro. Like colones, Like, I bet you my grandmother had $1 million at some point in time. And unfortunately, there were a lot of things that happened that's gonna have to be for another day, But I wanted to make my dad and my mom proud, so I ended up going to Nassau Community College for 1 semester. I signed up. I pay out of my own pocket since I didn't get any help from the government, and I ended up realizing that it wasn't for me. And here's where that thought came from. I always wanted more. I didn't want to make you 60, 80,000 a year. I want to make 100,000 in a year at the time, but I'm like, how much do these people make? Oh, they probably make like 75,000. Well, if they make 75,000, how can I learn to make 100,000 when they're not even making 100,000?
Yeah.
And that's when I started questioning the educational system. And that's when I decided to completely drop out of college, and I went all into personal development.
Yeah.
So I read
It's
books like Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, and like I started really, really expanding my mind to the point that my ex girlfriend at the time even left me because she started thinking that I'm crazy, because I'm telling her that we being lied this whole time about what is possible, and she's just looking at me like,
yeah.
and
How many people listening right now can relate to that? A relationship ending because the other person cannot see past their own nose or whatever they've been told or taught or anything like that. You have to understand that in the US right now, I haven't seen the exact tally, but we're somewhere around 350 plus million people in the United States right now. And we can't feed everybody and make them all happy and make sure that they all have a nice place to live and make sure that they all have all the things that they want. And so what we have to do as a society is we have to kind of indoctrinate them to be a cog in the machine. We have to kind of create this. I'm promise you, I'm not getting political here, but we have to create this kind of welfare type system where it's like, oh, well, somebody's got to take care of me. And the first place where you learn that, the first place where that starts is in school. You go to school and you learn how to sit in rows in alphabetical order, and you learn how to regurgitate the things that they tell you are important. Like, I can remember vividly from school that there was this thing called the Pythagorean theorem. Why did I learn that? I don't have a clue. But you know what I wish I would have learned? I wish I would have learned about compound interest.
Taxes.
I wish I would have learned about how do I invest money and make it grow. But that's not the thing that they want you to learn, because you can't be a good soldier, you can't be a good worker bee if you're worried about
those are the things that you got to learn to do on your own by joining secret societies. No, I'm just kidding. But the secret society that I joined is Apex. So I am an honor Apex executive, and I believe that's where I met you. And so everything that you're saying is 100% on point. And luckily I always been a very curious person. So I started going into my spiritual awakening at the age of 21. Not suggesting anyone to do anything here, but I started, doing things that will expand my mind, like psilocybin things and things like that really open up my mind to see things differently, So like I'm gonna go back to the point that you gotta always question absolutely everything, and I believe that's the key and the secret of the success that I have today. And also understanding the law of the spiritual world, subconscious affirmations, and just learning to go through the process, So even after getting my green card and doing all these amazing things, I still struggle, bro, because I didn't have financial literacy. So in 2015, when I told you I got my green card, and you asked me to go all the way back to my past on how I got here, you know, I made 20,000 in a month after going through this experience of selling makeup in the streets. You know, I was selling makeup in the streets in the Bronx, in Queens. I even went to Fort Knox to sell makeup. And that was the last day that I sold that product. I hated the product, but it was the first day that I understood what I was missing. So for anybody listening to this, the one thing that I was missing was embodying my personality and owning that shit, owning who I am, owning the person that's within me, the spirit in me, the conscious in me that wants to only express positive and abundance and generosity and good things, and really own it. Whoever you are, own it. And that day I took the decision to own that, my accent, my lack of maybe sometimes not expressing myself the best way. But on the other side, I have so much more, you know, and I started owning it. And that's when things started moving. So that day I was the top representative for that company. I sold the most bags of makeup, and I was making about $8 for each bag. And I made about $300 to $400 in the trip, 300 to be exact. And like I said, I was in my spiritual days. So I was all about buying crystals and things like that. So I bought this crystal right here that supposedly was gonna bring me success and happiness, and I think is labradorite and like a bunch of other things that has like that wavelength of abundance and success and all that. So I bought this for literally $200, and I only had 300, so that means I only stayed with 100. Only a crazy person will do that, but you got to be crazy if you want to be successful. You got to go against the rational thoughts that you have in your mind in order to create irrational results for the average person. The average person, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well said, man. And anytime, I'll say this, and this is something I learned later in life, but anytime that you're making an investment in yourself, it's always going to produce a return, because right now you don't miss those $200. And right now you are benefiting from whatever benefits that buying this rock created. If nothing
it's just
else,
a rock. But I believe the anchoring process, or the thought behind me believing this rock is going to amplify whatever it is, you know, it actually happened.
If nothing else, the fact that you could tell the story about that moment is worth, you know, way more than the $200 you spent at the time. And so I've always been a fan of I'm buying results, I'm buying experiences, I'm buying future stories. And that's where it is. And you're like, okay, I made $300 and I spent 200 on this rock. What?
And I done that multiple times. It was the
best decision ever, man.
Best decision ever. I done that multiple times. Like, challenge yourself. Even if you don't have a lot, go to an expensive restaurant. Like, go and spend the last $500 that you have on a nice dinner and stay with $100. Like, it takes to be that type of person, because once you put in the position where you have no other choice but to go produce and figure out a way to produce, you're going to figure out a way to produce. I done that so many times, you know. So once I got into solar, I made $20,000 my first month. I went back to El Salvador. I spent like $3,000 in a week. I took my dad out, you know, and then the first 6 months of solar, I made around 65. Second year, I went to make about 85 to 90. The third year, I go back to make 25. How the fuck that happens? You know, it happened because I made the wrong decisions to switch from one company to the other company that promised me the world, that told me that everything was going to be better for me. And in fact, it wasn't. They took so much time to get my jobs completed, so I wasn't getting paid the same way. And I started making less money, but my liabilities started going to the roof. I had a nice car that made me look like I'm kind of rich, like I kind of have money, you know, and I'm paying almost $1,000 a month for the car on top of the insurance, when I only have a $5,000 income a month. How can I survive on that when I'm literally using almost 60 to 70% of my income just to kind of barely make it? And I also made my mom very used to me giving her money all the time. So I had to find a way to come out with that. So for 2 years, I struggled so much, and I wasn't able to get out of that lump until one day, and it goes back to changing your environment. I made the decision to leave New York, to go to Massachusetts, so that I can finally change my life for once, because all the voices that I had around me at that time were negative. And sometimes are your closest people, sometimes are your friends, you know, but they're not doing this to discourage you. It's just that they are as stressful as you are, because you are the source of helping them. And now the light that you had at that time is completely off, and they just want to see that light come off again. But it's really hard to turn that light on when there's so much darkness around that you have to switch that light and go to a new place. So as soon as I moved to New York, I stopped hanging out with all my friends at the time that I needed validation in a way for them to tell me that my dreams were going to come through. I started making money again like it was before. So boom, I started making money again. I got like about 20 to 40,000 in my pocket in literally a month. I went and I used that money, invest that money into my call center. And now we have a call center headquarters with 4 floors, over 45 people functioning in the call center in Colombia, and that turned into something extremely amazing. It's a 6-figure business as of now, but at the same time, I built my solar business, and that turned into a 7-figure business, which now we're on our way to 8 figures. We sold over $8 to $10 million in solar, so we're extremely honored to be in this industry, and it's only the beginning, and it's been one step at a time.
Yeah.
So
wow.
If you can learn something from my story, is that the journey is everything. Trust the process, change your identity, learn to be exactly who you are as well, own it, and learn to adapt. First you learn, then you earn. The more that you learn, the more that you earn. That's why I spent 6 figures last year between Apex, the Avengers, and all these other groups, so that I can rewire my mind and everything that I wanted to do for me and change myself, and who I am today. And that's why I'm here today with you, sharing this amazing story. That my ultimate goal is for people to just find something that they can grab on and say, you know what, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. And it's not to diminish myself, to say that, something about me, but it's just that we're all the same, bro. The most humbling shit that you can do is take a shit in the morning, as a human being. Like, one of my mentors said that. Well, and
yeah, we all, everybody poops, man. But I think speaking of what, everybody, that was a very inspiring story from top to bottom. Just everything that you've been through, everything that you've been able to accomplish. I want to kind of crack open the noggin here and jump in to see a little bit about how you tick. Let's get into the Do Zone diagnostic.
Okay, let's go.
Just rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind, just quick hit answers here. What's one thing you do that keeps you focused on your goals?
I write down my goals every day.
Nice. Good stuff.
Affirmations.
And how do you get back on track when you lose that focus?
I take a vacation, or I go back to my family and remember where I come from. And I have the talks, the conversations that sometimes you don't want to have with yourself, and really be honest to yourself. But at the same time, don't make yourself feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to, because if you make yourself like you're not doing what you're supposed to, then that's what's going to be. I just take it as part of the process. I'm just happy that I live the life that I get to live every day, and that I get to do what I want to do every day.
Nice. That's great. And you already kind of touched on this a little bit, but who is your support group and how do they keep you accountable?
Yeah. Shout out to Apex. My support group is, Family of Choice, Erick Gonzalez, Danny, Avila, Roberto, Alice, Dinero on Instagram. They're my best friends. A bunch of go-getters that are also running multi-million-dollar companies. Darian and Steven, they're one of my closest friends. And of course, I give a lot to Ryan Stuman for doing this amazing community that he put together, and my coach, Mike Claudio, for always bringing a new perspective, and to my mother and God for always believing in me,
Nice.
Hey, and never forget your wife too. I almost did. So I love my wife so much. She's been there in every single
met your
part
wife.
of my
She's
process
a very lovely
and my
lady.
journey.
Yes.
So shout out to the Solar Queen, Doris Sanchez. She's been there with me. She's been a big supporter, big investor, a big believer. And one of the things that I love about her is that she keeps me grounded. It's like, bro, I can literally make 100 grand in one day. And she'll be like, oh, cool. That's nice. Like, there's nothing that I can do to, there's nothing that I can do kind of like when it comes down to money that will impress her, because she's not very like surface level. She's all about core level. And, we're very almost the same. So she's a big supporter that always there and always believe in me,
So you've been through so many trials in your very short life. You're a young guy, and you've lived
28.
multiple lifetimes already. How do you approach a difficult project that you're not sure how to complete?
Great question. I seek for counseling. Think and Grow Rich says that if you don't know how to do something, you find the people that does. So you go to the expert, you pay the price, and you get a shortcut so that you don't have to give the most valuable thing you have, which is time, and just get there a lot quicker. You know, like I'm humble enough to allow myself to know that if I don't know something, I ask for help. And if not, then I just find a way to figure it out on my own. You know, there's always a solution to it. There always is, you know, and I feel like every project that I have taken right now so far, I've been able to find a way to solve them, and it's always a matter of time. When it comes to problems, you can always identify them, discuss them, and then solve them. So we use that IDS system, which go back to the EOS system, entrepreneur operating system. I wish I knew about that when I started my business about 3 years ago. You know, because I would have put all my processes in place. I'm the CEO of a company. I'm the co-founder of another company, and I'm the visionary of another company. So I own 3 companies right now. We own the solar company, the call center, and we're also doing coaching, you know, for other people and whatnot. And I'm starting a lead gen too, like what I'm gonna sell H data and things like that. So how I've been able to do all those things by delegating, a lot of delegation too. You know,
Nice.
I delegate problems. I don't want to deal with the problems all the time. I don't have to be the guy that's fixing all the problems. I will pay people to fix these problems. Let me focus on the vision. Let me focus on bringing the talent, and let me focus on getting the money somehow. I'll figure it out. I'm the jockey that people wants to invest. You know, that's my
Right.
mindset.
Yeah, and that kind of really leads into the last question here. What is the number one pro tip that you would give to someone looking to get more stuff done in less time?
Yeah. So I will go with the motto of fuck your excuses, start where you are, leverage what you have, and trust the process. Just know that you have exactly what it takes to get there. You know, you don't need absolutely nothing else but what you have. When I started in entrepreneurship, I literally had only $20 in my pocket. When I got in the solar industry, I had absolutely nothing. I had that $20, my work ethic, which is my biggest strength. I went out there to the marketplace. I did the work, and that's how I was able to get the result. So just don't overthink. Just do it and make it happen. Like they say, you know, imperfect action is better than perfect action. You'll never get it perfect. Like it will never happen. Just
Yep.
get it done.
Nice.
That's what will be.
Such an inspirational character, sir. Erick Sanchez. Really appreciate you. Where can somebody reach out and connect with you if they want to connect?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you guys can find me on my IG. Is Solar King without the I, because there's no ego in my shit. So you find me as Solar KNG. Everything I do has something there, right? Like
Yeah, right.
I'm a character, man. I know,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, you can find me in Solar King, Solar KNG. You know, go there, or you can go to our website as well, www.initiate.solar. You know, and that's our website for one of my businesses, and that's where people can find me.
Very good. Awesome. Well, you certainly have inspired me to make sure that I don't make any excuses the next time that I'm doing some gringo shit. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Erick Sanchez. For those of you who want to reach out and connect with Erick, and you were affected by his story in some way, I encourage you to find him on Instagram at Solar King. That's KNG, because there's no ego in his shit, or whatever he said.
That's exactly what I said. I said Solar KNG without the I, because there's no ego in my shit. So, you know, like the I identifies
Yeah, I got it.
you know, it's just, I don't know if it's correct
Yeah.
or not, but like, yeah. So people, you can go find me in Solar King. And I'm also looking for the phone number here that you can text directly if you have any questions. So it's 214-531-6138. You know, that's our phone number directly. Somebody from my team will answer you, you know, so that's the phone number there. 214-531-6138. Just put the name here of the podcast that we had, and just
The
let
Do
me know
Zone.
that you that the Do Zone, you know, and just say Josh, I heard you from him, and we'll take care from there.
Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap up from here. Thanks again, Eric, for being on here and for sharing the harrowing journey and the fruits
Thank
of
you.
your labor. So you can
Absolutely.
connect with Eric at Solar King KNG on Instagram, or you can visit his website initiate.solar. If you're a busy entrepreneur looking to get to the next level, head over to thedozone.com for more productivity tips, tools, and strategies. You can also join our Facebook group of the same name. Until next time, remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with yours?